right. Welcome back to Untitled Common Sense. For me, it's Sunday morning, and I was actually this happened last night. I was walking to the store and thinking about the state of the country as I usually do. I mean, it's yeah, I think about it a lot now, which is weird because historically, I'm a guy who doesn't never really cared for politics, was not really focused in all that macro, sort of outlook. But the state of America has just really wormed its way into like my everyday like thought process, like my purview. To see what this country is becoming is disappointing because it's becoming everything it was set up to not be, or everything that I've lived with. I'm 42, and I've been and to me, America has always been this other place, and you see it in the way that we used to be seen around the world. It was a place where people can come and be something more than what they could have been in their country. Whenever there's a crisis in another country, people would immigrate to America because there they were convinced they would have the opportunity to be better themselves. Even here in America, you could be the most destitute person, but there was always this spark of optimism that was in the back of your mind that only in America could I, start from the bottom and then raise to the top. And to see what this country is becoming, and so willingly, it's become very disheartening. And so I go back and forth in my mind. I oscillate between hope and pessimism and things like that. And I was listening to some podcasts, and the thought occurred to me that this is a test. This is America's crucible. I think America has gotten to the point where we either put up or shut up. And what I mean by this is that I think America has gone off course for so long, and that the dream has been so empty for so long that now Americans and America itself needs to figure out what it's really going to be. I was thinking, why does Trump's message resonate with people? Why are people becoming so much more cruel? Why are people becoming so much more willing to just be shitty people? Why is America so willing to go back on everything it has espoused for all these many years and decades? And I think it fundamentally comes down to that Americans can no longer envision a hopeful future. And and, and let me explain what I mean by that. America has always been a land of promise, a land of opportunity. These in of themselves are very altruistic and hopeful and idealistic goals. If you're the land of opportunity, if you're the land of milk and honey, these are aspirational. And they say that here you can be fruitful, you can blossom, you can bloom. But now I think even America itself realized that that's not the problem. Too long have we been sold a bill of goods that just doesn't add up. And I think the core of America sees that, but they are unable to find a way out of it. And so you have a segment of the population, quote unquote MAGA, that says, you know what, fuck it, let's burn it all. And let's just be this worst version of ourselves that only cares about us and only does it. And that's why they idealize a time that they perceive as better. But that's because they can't, no one, I think, right now can realistically see a time where America will be better, where we'll have economic equality, where we'll have justice for all, where we'll be able to enjoy all the freedoms. I think it's hard for people to see that now. And so you're seeing this picking of sides. If the ship is burning down, what are we going to do? Are we going to try to grab buckets of water and save it, or are we just going to loot the place and let it be every man for itself? So I think this is a very critical test for Americans, and it's one that I honestly don't know if we're prepared to handle, but it's going to have to happen because things have gotten to such a place that we can no longer not pay attention. What's I guess so disheartening for me is that America used to be this example in the world. America was held as like the gold standard of like what it means for a country to be free, what it means to have freedoms, what it means to enjoy and to be able to pursue these lofty goals of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But what we're seeing now is that people want to take that away at the most fundamental levels. America's great because we have free speech. You can talk about things and not fear reprisal. And now we're cracking down on people talking about stuff because we don't like it. We used to be known as a country of people who, can rise above all the pettiness and understand what is the most noble aspiration and the noble goal and a noble course of action. And now you see us engaged in petty, like, condensation. Our world leaders are going to other world leaders and condemning them and talking down to them and feeling that we're aggrieved when we've enjoyed this position of privilege all along. And it just shows a lack of just self-awareness. It's like when you meet somebody who's going through a hard time and they lashing out, at everybody who does care or anybody who, shows any concern, and they're like, yeah, get away, you're not helpful, and they beat up on the people that is close. I really feel that's what America's doing, especially on the world stage. Americans are complaining that we have too many immigrants, but they don't understand that the reason we have so many immigrants is because we are literally one of the few countries in the world that literally in our like summary of this place offer the promise of a better life. And I think people are conflating immigrants. People are seeing immigrants as having better lives than them because we have failed so fundamentally in this country for providing a better life for the citizens here. And I say that because an immigrant coming here is usually coming from like, not generally, some come here and they are already, running the race, but some usually come from the bottom and they work their way up. And so for that type of immigrant, there's no place to go but up. And so this truly is an upgrade because their country might have political unrest or be dangerous or what have you. But I think there's so many people here that are just going through so much suffering. They can't get a better job. Prices are rising. Their politicians lie to them, and things that they say, are invested in the community are taken away. Corporations are taking land. It just seems like you can't get a break. And so like, I can understand why this group of people is just fed up. And I can understand why they will follow Donald Trump, who exhibits none of the qualities of our typical leadership. But you also can't deny that, like, he is a symptom of our worst aspects. Though he's not like the career politicians, he is a product of the environment that they have fostered, that we have fostered here in America. He's an extremely rich guy who is not really good at what he does, but through the connections of him being rich, has been able to make something of himself. So he's achieved his American dream. But unlike the rest of us, he doesn't care that anybody else succeed. He's only caring about enriching his pockets, which he's doing currently right now. Like the only thing that I think he's really accomplished, like really, really, really accomplished in any degree of competency is making himself rich. You could talk about him closing the borders, but I really contend the borders were never the problem. The problem was that America set up a society where if you were American, it seemed harder to get ahead than if you weren't. And that's why people are hating on immigrants. It's because for the immigrants, coming here is an upgrade. For the immigrants, working for these pennies is more pennies than they had in their other country. But if you're here in America, it just feels like you aren't getting a fair shake. And what's interesting about this, just to kind of parallel this, is that I think this MAGA base, which probably is, probably is constructed mostly of white people. I think this is probably one of the first times where I think, in a lot of ways, white people feel the way minorities have felt in this country for a long time. Here is this class of people that does everything they can to play by the rules and only seem to find themselves further and further from the goal. This is something that minorities have experienced time immemorial since they've been in this country. So we're used to it. We've had years and decades and centuries of living with this systemic injustice that, we've adapted to it. We know life is not fair. We know that the American dream is just that, a dream. It's not for everybody. And now I think this base is figuring this out and they don't like it. But instead of like looking to the real problem, which is our capitalist system, our politicians, our leadership that seeks only to enrich, but not give any recourse in governing and making lives better for all, they're going to point to other people because it's easier. And because we in America lack imagination. We used to be a country that had the imagination. We used to see the horizon and think there's nothing we can't do. But now America's becoming so closed-minded, so cruel, so limited that we can't even envision a world where everybody can eat at the table. That's how far we've fallen. A nation of dreamers, a nation of people who control their destiny, now relegated to just miserly Scrooge-like people who are trying to hold on to bits and scraps while people are smiling in our faces and taking money out our pockets. There is a reason why everybody wanted to come to America and wants to come to America. It's because America represents an ideal that very few countries in the world can espouse. America is the one place where you don't have to have an ethnic background to be considered somebody of importance or somebody who can affect change. America is supposed to level the playing field. America is supposed to be the place that no matter where you're on the world, you can look to America inspired to be better, even though you're not in America. And that's what America's always stood for. So for America to fall is not just a disservice to America, it's a disservice to the world, because without somebody to look to, without some beacon or standard to say like, maybe we should model our government more like that. Maybe we should respect people's freedoms. Just think about this. If America becomes the country that it's seemingly wanting to be, where they don't care about personal freedoms, where they just want a dictatorship, where they want one man with a limited view to control every aspect of your life, where women don't have control of their bodies, what makes it different from all the other countries that Americans claim are the enemy? You see in some of these Arab countries exactly what I'm saying. You have a select few of people who have a very limited view of the world based on their background and ideology. They seek to subjugate people who are not exactly like them. And those are the people we're quick to call infidels and heathens and heretics, and now we're becoming that country. Our Christian nationalists want to squash any type of anything that doesn't align with their very narrow definition of superficial Christianity. They want women to be in their place and have babies. They don't want women to be making trouble. They want them to be take a back seat. White people are hailed as the best race. Jesus was weak. You see this. We're becoming exactly like the countries we claim to fear in the Middle East and in Asia and even Russia. The fact that people now are cozying up to Russia. Like, we're just going to have a Russia just without, sad to say it, an effective leader like Putin. No one can say that Putin's not serious about what he's doing. And no one can say that Putin doesn't at least have a certain degree of competency. We don't even have that. We have a sideshow version of that. And people want that. And I academically understand that represents a departure from what we had, but you can't descend into idiocy and you can't indulge in your worst impulses and then have the temerity to lecture people on the grand stage. You can't say that you're right and yet everything you're doing is fundamentally wrong. Gay people are not your enemies. Trans people are not coming for your children. Immigrants are not out there robbing and mugging you. I mean, maybe there's a few that are, sure. But there's more people that live in your country and from your country that are doing that. In fact, we have an entire government of people robbing you, telling you you're not worth it, that are literally making money hand over fist while they take away anything that can provide you with any type of parity, or any type of guarantee that your life matters or is worth something, or that you can even achieve anything. And this is the test that I'm talking about. Will America choose to be an example for the rest of the world? Will America choose to be so influential that governments from here on out choose to model their governments after that? Will America be so influential, be so respected that people want to send their children here across the sea to study here and to make something of themselves? Will we be so influential that when people experience hard times, they come to America because they know that America can help them? Will we be seen as this bastion of freedom where we are not like the rest of the world? We are a pinnacle of what humanity can be if humanity embraces their differences and realizes they can work together for a common goal. Or will we choose to be a country that is constantly scared of everything that's not like it? Will we be a country that is finds it acceptable to rip people off the streets without any justification, like any of those Latin American countries people are scared of going? People will be like, oh, you can't go here because they'll kidnap you. That's what they're doing now in America. We're becoming that country. Do you want to be a country where it's so lawless that people can just rip you off any old way and it's okay? Do you want America where you say one thing and then you're locked in the gulag? You know, we talk about free speech, and all I'm seeing is more and more and more prohibitions, more restrictions on free speech than ever before. It wasn't like this before people started talking about this. You know, I'm just seeing more and more of a crackdown. Why are we unleashing the power of police? Like, if America is so safe, why does everybody feel so scared? Why? Because it's not from any of the reasons that they're telling us. It's not. It's not. I'm more scared of going out and driving and somebody cutting me off and getting out the car and shooting me because of conceal and carry. I'm more scared of that. I'm more scared of walking down the street and having, I hate to say it, a white woman feel uncomfortable because I look a certain way and then me getting like arrested or the police called on me. That's what I'm afraid of. Not all this other boogeyman shit. I'm not worried about a Mexican dude. I'm really not. I'm really not. Because in my everyday, I just don't counteract them. But the people that I do counteract every day, I'm damn sure afraid of. It sucks that I walk into a supermarket and I say hello to people. But in the back of my mind, it's like, are we really saying hello? Or is it just a way for us to be like, yo, I'm cool? Like, is this person voting against my interests? If I was to be sick and wounded on the floor, would they really stop to help me? Is this really a community? This is the things that I'm thinking now. This is what I'm thinking now. It has nothing to do with immigrants. I'm thinking now, if a politician says one thing, what's the real play? How are you making money? How are you going to like shortchange me in the long run? You know, all this billionaire worship. Like, why are they so interested? Why are we holding up billionaires? When has a company ever really done right by me? You know, those are the things I'm afraid of. I'm afraid of that. I'm afraid of venture capitalists buying up all the property and then raising taxes. Because I'm just like, if you're not in the business of providing people with homes, but just making money, then what real reason do you have to make any of this affordable or to really help people? You see what I'm saying? All I'm hearing from politicians is economy, economy, economy. Nobody cares about the personal and civil freedoms anymore. Just as long as the economy is okay. We got to get people back to work. We got to have factories here so people can work. Everybody wants us to work, but nobody wants to take care of the people who work. Nobody. Companies, every justification can be made to why companies have to lay it off because their bottom line. But like, what the fuck is a company? It's just a group of people who come together to do some type of economic business. But the key word in that is group of people. You don't have a company if you don't have people. You don't have a company if you don't have people who buy that product. So this notion that people and money must be divorced in that way is ridiculous. And I'm tired of accommodating these nebulous corporations that have nobody's interests at heart. Why can't they pay more taxes? They buy up all the land. They use up all the resources. Why can't they put back? Why is it so hard to ask them, like, yo, if you're gonna come in this country and you're gonna do all this, that you invest in that country? And don't give me that bullshit with jobs, because the jobs are only there until the money's not. And then they're like, fuck it, we're not making our quota, even though we're a profitable company, even though we can still pay the amount of people, even though this particular year we didn't make enough, we have to justify always making more. So we'll cut the people first and then go on. These are the things that I'm afraid of. But nobody wants to talk about that. They want to point at immigrants. They want to point at wokeness. They want to point at trans people. These are all boogeymen. Nobody is worried about trans people. Nobody's walking through their everyday life. Oh man, there's trans people behind the bushes. You know? There's no woman thinking about when she's on the train like, oh my God, a trans person is going to come and accost me. No, they're worried about they're worried about some crackhead or drug person accosting them, probably from America, because we don't care about our people. We don't give them the type of help that we need, because they're not our problem until it becomes our problem. Then it's like, oh, it's the biggest thing ever. This is what I'm talking about. This country wants something better. That much is clear. But this country needs to start realizing that if you want something better, we need to address our problems. And we need to stop looking at everybody else in the world and feeling like we are being taken advantage of or we're being aggrieved, when the problem is ourselves. We worship money. We don't care about one another. We are investing in cruelty and harm and calling it patriotism. And it's got to stop. So, as I stated earlier, this is a test. That's all it can be. And depending on the decisions we make, the outcome will be readily apparent. America will either continue to be the country it is always reported to be, probably stronger for it, or it will crumble and fall apart and become a cesspool of just crime and depravity, like we've seen in every post-feature movie. Look at RoboCop. We look closer to the world in RoboCop than we do Star Trek, where there's a more optimistic outlook. People can't even relate to Star Trek anymore because they don't see a world where people just come together and they just do dope shit. They see a world where, greedy corporations are militarizing police and keeping people down and being oppressive. They see Blade Runner, where you got all these people living in squalor and things just look shady and shifty. That is the America that people really believe, they can really believe in. And they put their hope in these false prophets, these businessmen who claim to be visionaries, but they're not. Because if they were true visionaries, we would be somewhere totally different. It amazes me how people with all the money, just look at how they change the world, not for the better. Elon Musk talks about Mars and he talks about, saving the earth. But his rockets do more pollution than anything. His cars are completely unsafe, poorly made, because again, he doesn't invest in what it would take to make a vehicle because it's not profitable. He's worried about the decline of civilization. We have a civilization right now. Why don't we do things to make that better? Instead, his thing is, I'll have more babies. If I have more babies and they grow up, then society will save. You see the hubris in that? This dude has all the money in the world. He could have started initiatives to increase recycling, to find new technologies that can help us deal with our pollution, ways to make the earth a more verdant and beautiful garden. And instead he said, let's go to the coldest planet and all the way far and live on a place that is totally unsuitable for us. Let's, instead of building better technologies for vehicles to make it safer so we can get off gas, I'm going to buy X so I can, call people this and that and spout, questionable rhetoric. Jeff Bezos got Blue Origin. We could take rich people up into the stratosphere. How is that helping anybody? We've made it easier for people not to get off their ass and to go to the store. Now they can just order things and not have to interact with the world. How does that help anybody? Mark Zuckerberg, Over here talking about that people are going to have AI friends. The fuck? People are lonelier now more than ever, and you're just going to make some way to increase that? That's the problem now. Nobody feels like they can connect with anybody. We got all these people feeling like there's no community, and you create something that further divides that. And these are the people that we're looking up to. These are the visionaries who see the future and say, you know what? I'm going to make it worse. Peter Thiel, Palantir. It's a surveillance company. That's what we do. Instead of investing in different ventures that can help eliminate the need for surveillance, no, let's double down on the paranoia and the fear mongering. Let's get a surveillance state. Let's really make deep state. Let's have everybody phone lines tapped. That's what I'm saying. The vision is not there. Not even from the so-called visionaries. All they want is profit and dystopia. Nobody's looking like, how can I make it better? How can I use my money to really make the place better? And that's what I'm saying. America is going to have to choose. Do we want to be the America that was promised to us, that's been told to us since we were children, to be the place that we've always heard from everybody else that we are? Or do we want to be a cesspool of hate, a cesspool of ignorance, a place where people say, oh, you shouldn't go to America. It's not a good place. They got problems there. People get kidnapped. There's a lot of hate going on. You'd just be accosted because you're different. People are ignorant. Choice is ours.